Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and after a long time, Mr. Tom Rose joined in World Talent Economy Forum. Thank you for joining today's sessions because our youth community, especially missing many of your point and strategy. Prof- and beside that, we have our honorable professor, Professor David Smith, and Mr. Adam. So I want to start from Mr. Tom Rose. We will discuss about solar system, sun, and planet. I know that uh, intellectually, both in scientific knowledge as well as spiritual knowledge, you have a lot of contributions. Even in the futures, we want to arrange a conference with you in Malaysia. So how you want to analyze these things? How actually this planet actually move forward, especially if we focused on the present pandemic situation?
Well, I think I'm taking the side that the sun, the planets in the solar system are real. So I'm just kidding, as if this was a debate. Yeah, I mean everything is moving so fast now. Speaking of these topics, I mean with the James Webb Telescope just successfully um, deployed its mirrors and it's ready to go. So that should be fascinating. What we see with the James Webb Telescope. There is this topic. I mean, obviously, it's broad, and you can look at it from many different levels, whether it's astronomically, spiritually, Vedic astrology, other issues that are coming into play with interstellar visitors. And so there's just a lot that's going to be happening very quickly in space, just above the Earth with private space travel now. And so it's a big topic, and we could talk about it at any level. I think, again, it's still the last frontier, as far as we know, on the outside of us. So it's an exciting time. And as technology gets cheaper and lighter and gives more people access to not only space travel, but in some way, but also just understanding and where we are in the cosmos, in this Sagittarius arm. It's just an exciting time to really reflect and see what we're about to understand and what we're about to see as far as our place in a galactic community, even. So, yeah, any level of this conversation is intriguing to me. So, I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Professor David Smith, how you want to, sorry, there is internet issues. Then Mr. Adam, how you want to analyze to this topic?
Thanks, Sharif. So, overpopulation has been a hot topic for years and decades, and it always seemed intuitive to me. Maybe I'm simplifying the issue, but it's always seemed intuitive to me that overpopulation could be solved or remedied by colonizing space. And even before doing something as drastic as that, we have plenty of space left out at sea with seasteading, structures under the sea, maybe even on ocean floors. Up in the sky, sky-steading, cloud cities, which is a bit more of a futuristic idea, reminiscent of sci-fi. And of course, seasteading and ocean-borne living settlements and habitats are also something we could do on somewhere like Europa. And we do eventually get there, and of course, Mars as well, somewhere a bit closer than Europa, which is in the public consciousness right now with Musk, of course. So we're going to see something within all of our lifetimes related to that. So I'm also looking forward to, we never really had something like the moon landing or something quite that scale since. So hopefully we will be watching live broadcast from Mars at some point in our lives.
Thank you, Mr. Ching.
Yeah,
We are discussing about solar system. Yes.
solar system. Yeah, you see, I probably is quite experienced in the mathematics of solar system. Okay, in that case, is why is the solar system stable? Okay, the person who first calculate that is Henri Poincaré, a French. He got $1 million for calculating the stability. Use manifold. It's a mathematical problem. Today, I have a table tennis partner at the Quran Institute, who's Peter Lax. He got the Field Prize. He's working on the stability of the solar system. Okay, my main interest is whether the solar system is created or is it natural. Okay, I hope you people, everybody, give me some idea. Okay, if I say it's created, the scientific world the scientists want to be God. Okay, they want to replace God, so nobody can. If they say evolution, they say, it's natural. Nobody can contradict that. So, I'm the founder of pole science, so I don't care what the scientists think. Basically. Okay, so also about the sun. About the sun, okay, I'm a nuclear. I have a doctorate degree in control fusion, plasma physics. Okay, the sun, solar energy is a good energy because it's the Earth cannot take too much energy. Okay, if mass turn into energy on Earth, it goes too much, the Earth will have problem. Okay, like a global warming, because your nuclear reactor will generate from mass to energy. Okay, also coal will from mass to energy. All the chemical reaction also mass to energy. So this is a very dangerous, So solar energy is good energy. Also about, Adam say something about colonization. I'm not really for the idea. Okay, the reason is, human being put the human at the center of the universe. I think that is the source of lots of wrong conception. You see, if we do not put human in the center, we want to colonize. If we put what the universe, both I think DNA is at the center. Okay, DNA is the knowledge of the universe. So what the way to colonize is to mix DNA with mix the alien DNA with the native animals. Okay, the animals living on Earth can already survive. Okay, they can survive, but the aliens cannot survive. So they come in and mix their DNA with the animals. So they have the alien brain and the animal body. Okay, I'm partially telling a joke. Okay. So what we are trying to achieve, we try to achieve the alien brain, and we want still retain animal body. You see, I have solved this problem of a touch jump house. Okay, human being move like a robot with force, very slow. Animal move real fast. Okay, so our goal is to move like an animal, but think like alien. Okay. So this colonization idea, I think we should just sending DNA to mix with the animals which can survive in that planet. All we want is make the animal intelligent so they can contribute to the intelligence of the universe, which is DNA. Okay, not too much self-centered, as humans. From the early history, we see lots of false ideas because we think humans are the center of the universe. I really think that's a big mistake. Okay, that's all. I like to learn from you. Basically, I
Thank
come
you.
here to learn from you, not
Thank
to,
you.
to tell you anything.
Thank you. Professor David Smith. There are some interesting aspects, philosophical aspects, and very diverse aspects actually bringing our speaker, Mr. Tom Rose, Mr. Ching, as well as Mr. Adam. What you want to add for today? Can you unmute, please?
Hey, Sherry, thank you so much. The whole issue is kind of interesting because it's so dynamic right now. We had 9 plants and we ate, and we maybe have 9 back again. But what was really interesting to me is some of the studies that have come out recently. Actually, last week, where the studies indicate that the sun had rings before it had planets from these different studies. Uh, and this was a study that was released out of NASA's Emerging Worlds program. And it's one that is just really pushing it. It kind of looked like pressure bumps were some of the things that in the sun's protoplanetary disk might explain a bunch of how the planets were put in place and the different inputs from that. And just how they were put in place. It talks about the asteroid belt being how it was formed, and really that goes away to explain some of the chemical makeups between their different planets. So to me, it's a dynamic, moving place, and that our knowledge is continuing to increase so rapidly and so fast right now that it's hard for us to really understand the differences. With all the press coming out now that the Chinese rover discovered water on Mars, that came out this week, and everything else, to me, the dynamics are just constantly accelerating now. And we're living in an interesting time as it comes to looking at the solar system.
Thank you, Professor David Smith, Mr. Tom Rose. Especially, uh,
我现在
there is one.
我在开会啊。
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, Mr. Tom Rose, especially in this moment, specifically in this challenging moment, we are observing that, especially with this COVID and different kind of natural challenges we are facing, there are few people still they believe that we do not utilizing our natural resources properly. Maybe we manipulate the system. That's why we are facing this challenge. So if we focus on our earth and the sun and this kind of system, what do you think what we are doing as a people, as a civilized society in 21st century, we are in right track, or we have to improve our strategy, we have to improve our plan?
Well, I think to get on the right track, we've got to kind of grow up a little bit and stop being in denial of certain things. And Hugh kind of opened up this topic for me. I didn't know we were going to go this way, but I'm happy to. In that, I mentioned that we're going to maybe need to understand how we could be part of a galactic community, and that's a scary topic when you start thinking that there might be off-world civilizations. Maybe there's more advanced civilizations out there, and it's a great sci-fi topic. It's great for people to think about. It's been one of my guilty pleasures for decades, but now we know that the Pentagon and the Navy and the U.S. government has officially acknowledged off-world technology. I'm sure they're acknowledging very little that they already know about, but I think the humans are ready to understand this, and if we're not ready, we need to get ready quick, because, as you mentioned, all these existential threats, be they plagues or climate change, all of these things, cancer, every sort of thing that really affects humanity. We spend so much time and so much money on these things, and we're past the Rubicon on many of these existential threats. My belief is that in a very short period of time, with so much less money, we could arrange a global liaison protocol to reach out to these civilizations if we haven't already. I'm sure the military has, the government probably has, all agencies that are doing this, but we need to do this on a public level. We need to reach a critical mass, and there's some of this happening, but a lot of it's very kind of new agey and not really practical. And I think the important thing is to make this reality as mundane as soon as possible so that we can get on with using it. It's just it's exactly like my talk about AI. We need to alleviate the fear of AI so that it can help us, save ourselves. But too many people are afraid of that. Many people are afraid of the idea of actual extraterrestrials or whatever, interdimensionals or inner Earth civilizations, whatever they are. But we need to, because it's a threat, because they'd be more intelligent than us, probably by thousands of years, who knows? But it's time that we let go of this anthropocentric view that we're the most important thing, because that's what's causing all this trouble. I wasn't able to join the debate a week or so ago about whether we should be colonizing Mars or whatever. And I think sure, continue to do that, but it shouldn't be so that we can find Earth 2.0 and move there. We need to refurbish our flat here first, before, not flat Earth, but we need to refurbish our home here, spend that kind of money. Otherwise, we're just a virus. We've landed on Earth. We've eaten all the resources like a locust and gone to another planet, and we'll probably do the same thing there. So there's I think a lot of that is we need to in some way douse the ego or get away from this anthropocentric point of view where we're the most important thing. I don't want to go too far off the mark here, but so that's my view, is that we could spend so much less time, so much less money, practically figuring out, if we haven't already, how to commune with these off-world civilizations, get some help. Now, there may be a prime directive, there may be a reason that they do not, land on the White House lawn, all of that stuff. But it could also just be, maybe we are their experiment. Maybe we are, as Hugh said, we are the animals that have been implanted with this alien intelligence. And so we are really just rats in a maze. And maybe they do certain things just to see what will happen. Maybe this is a simulation where we're running different kind of ancestor civilizations to see what would happen with different choices. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The reality is, and even if it is a psyop, global psyop, for the United States to say, yes, there's off-world technology and we don't know what they are, you could, there's probably going to be an attempt to make that frightening for people, to keep the fuel of fear in the military-industrial complex, right? It's just the next enemy. But apparently, that is the narrative that they're going with. So if it is, then we need to, as the public, do what we need to do to commune directly with these things, because the power structures on Earth are designed to hold on to that information. That's where the power is. It's just like with AI, the first country that manages to reach AGI will rule the world. So it's really important that human beings, just like with AI, get over the fear of this stuff. And because that's what's keeping us from community. That's what's keeping us in these existential threats, is the fear of the power elite, if you will. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I think, but there is just a natural tendency for power structures to hoard information and hoard contacts and hoard technology. It's just what we do. But it's what we need. But we also need to understand if that was true, if there were off-world civilizations who are thousands of years more advanced, and they haven't taken us over yet, they're not going to. All right, this could be part of the process, could be to see how long it takes human beings to get rid of this fear-based instinct that we've evolved, and to look up and realize that we need some help and to ask for it. Right, this is kind of a common theme throughout society right now, is learning how to ask for help. But anyway, that's where I feel things are, and I've been working on this for decades. With the US 6 thing, it's all about AI. But I've always known that at some point I would change the acronym AI to ET, because everything I'm doing with AI is perfectly relatable to how we can relate to another non-human intelligence. So I think that's important, because that's the narrative at least the U.S. government is going with, that there is this reality. And so if that's the case, why aren't we asking them for help? It would take so much less time, so much less money to develop a global liaison protocol to commune with advanced civilizations. And I think Hugh hit on it. I think, there's that whole theory of, when a couple 100,000 years ago, when our evolution kind of took a big leap forward. And who's to say that it wasn't some alien that was some way epigenetically imprinting our DNA, with these primates here on this planet, kind of thing. That's a whole nother podcast. But I just think it's the main thing, whether it's AI, ET, the denial people have of climate change, the denial people have of COVID. We need to grow up. We need to stop making these things political, because people are dying because of these staunch Dunning-Kruger-ish approaches to things. And so that's where I stand. That's why my whole thing is about alleviating the fear of this stuff and making it as mundane as possible as soon as possible, so we can get some help.
Excellent, Mr. Tomros. Mr. Adam, actually from our audience, they want to learn more about how did the solar system form, like from sun and the solar system, how does it works. Even we have our expert speakers, Professor Ching and Professor David Smith. They also can respond. Mr. Adam.
That's a bit outside my realm of expertise, I'm afraid. But I did have some points related to what Tom and Hugh said. That's all right. And then maybe someone else could answer that question, because that's a bit beyond my scope, I'm afraid. But so sort of things I just wanted to say was, the solar system, as well as overpopulation, like I mentioned before. Another topic is what we've already touched on, alien life, intelligent alien life, or not so intelligent alien life. I think that puts us between a bit of a rock and a hard place. What we could call a double bind. What I mean is life that is more intelligent than us humans is dangerous, or could be, but also a life that is not as intelligent as us could also be dangerous. If you place a person with an IQ of 150 in the middle of a living settlement populated by people with an average IQ in double figures like 70, and the person with the triple figure IQ will become, I think, will most likely become resentful, anxious, or depressed, get dragged down into behavioral sink. And we all know how badly animals are treated in factory farms and slaughterhouses. We are more sentient and sapient than animals, but we are certainly not more compassionate, moral, ethical. We could be, we have the potential to be, but we are not. So going the other way, this is why I'm skeptical of the Messiah, some of the messianism seen in AI, singularitarianism, ufology, where we think a super intelligent Messiah will come and whisk us away into a futuristic heaven paradise, when it really seems that drastic differences in intelligence breeds psychopathy or sociopathy and that which is more intelligent, and exploitation and suffering for those at the bottom. So when Arthur C. Clarke said something to the effect of both the existence of other life forms or the absence of other life forms are both terrifying propositions for us. So if we're not careful, so are super intelligence, low intelligence, or even the same intelligence as us. And of course, alien life is vague. I mean, obviously we're talking about space, but there's also, like Tom said, other dimensions, other realities down the ocean, maybe even dreams as well. But actually, I suppose to try and answer that question, I personally do think Earth is an experiment, and each different country or region is a separate petri dish with differing variables for the purpose of gaining knowledge, just like how scientists do so with rats and mice. So I kind of sympathize with what Hugh Ching said, that it could be natural, but I do think there is some alien intervention in our history, and maybe the formation of the Earth and the rest of the solar system probably. So that's what I think.
Thank you, Professor Ching.
Okay, I mainly, relate to the question people raised. Okay, first, my belief is first we need to find out how the solar system is formed. Okay, how to compose, how we need to save our Earth if the Earth go off its track. Okay, we need to spend time doing that instead of try to go to Mars, go go to different places. I think it's a little bit too much too much early brainwashing. I think in the 60s, everybody talking about going to the moon. Okay, so it's the space race. So all these kids all the people who talk a great deal about this, going out to colonize other planets, go to space, are people who are in that age range. Okay, in my age range, I don't think we are that much into that. And in computer calculation, we find the Earth has at least 150 million years to be on the track, stable track. Okay, and the danger is if the Earth's track is 15 meter, 15 meter off the track, off the trajectory, it would become unstable. So the Earth's rotation is extremely sensitive. It's not in the order of miles or hundreds of miles. It's in the order of 50 meters. Okay. So we need to really look into this. This is my feeling about the current situation and what is the alternative. And also pole science is for the concept of self-creation. I'm the guy who actually started this concept, self-creation. The reason I started, I can see from pole science, eventually humans will be intelligent enough to create themselves. Okay, this will completely ruin the theory of evolution. Okay, people coming from random chance, humans. Okay, human didn't create human on Earth. Okay, somebody created us. It's quite obvious. And if we can create ourselves, then what we create, what would this thing we create cause? They will cause the creator. Okay. So this, when human beings are created, one criteria is to give human the ability eventually to self-create. Okay, this is the way of permanence. Okay, solution of permanence is self-creation. Okay, so I believe this, and I believe this, but the society today doesn't even have the solution of touch. Okay, touch is related to ball control. How do you hit the ball with steadiness? Consistency in sports is based on this solution of touch. The reason I wrote a book a long time ago was, if humans go to intergalactic Olympic, okay, and the humans do not know the mechanism of the most important mechanism in sports, it would be embarrassing. Okay, in other words, today human, if meet some aliens, it's not they're less intelligent, they're definitely more intelligent than us. Okay, eventually we will probably match them. Okay, we'll catch up with them. But today it's really, not the right time to meet aliens. And also another thing, Tom and Ellen both mentioned about meeting aliens. We need to solve the problem of peace before we go out to meet aliens. Okay. We can just totally forget about searching for aliens. Okay, it's searching for trouble. Okay. We need to focus on solve the problem of peace. And the pole science has this cultural level coaching. Okay, we rank it from one highest at 1, lowest the most backward culture 16. And today in science we reach the culture level of 11. If we can just move one step higher into the age of social science, we will reach the cultural level of 10. Okay, where people can solve the problem of arbitration. Then we will have the solution of peace. Okay, it's very near. Okay, most countries today, advanced countries, wouldn't have thinking about fighting a war. Okay, except a few more backward countries. Okay, they're still thinking of fighting. Okay, people are gradually, especially Milton Friedman has introduce this money-oriented society, so everybody just work for money. And very few people thinking like Trump, when he's president, he doesn't have a fight in his mind. He just want to go fight a trade war, not a military war. Okay, this is advancement, the human advancement in general. Okay, we need to solve the Solution peace, and this society hasn't really accepted our solution of value. Not the Solution piece is really embedding the Solution value. So I like to introduce this knowledge-oriented society. So people with human beings should focus on knowledge, not on money. Okay, so every human will think, robot will work. Okay, so basically that's,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Professor David Smith, I want to bring another question from audience. Mahdi, he wants to know what was thought to be the age of the 9 planets relative to each other.
Well, there's many opinions about the age of the planets. Some of the consensus opinions in NASA is that it's about 4.5 billion years old. And that, to answer a couple of the other questions too, though, is that the planets do orbit in the same plane. And part of the reason for that is at least our solar system was formed out of glass clouds of material. And they were all kind of like the rings of Saturn, is a good analogy to look at how it was around the sun. And that they were formed there is a recent study by a professor at Rice University said is bumps that combined, and there's an inner zone and an outer zone of the scientific simulations come out of him that accounts for why the outer planets are so very much different than the inner planets in makeup and composition. The discovery, the question about how the solar system was discovered is to me an interesting one, because it's a questions about consciousness. And when the first human looked up in the stars and from the planet, in essence, these solar systems with an S was discovered, because we saw that there were other objects in space. Now, the individual planets coming was much later. We knew there was a moon early, but then as Galileo invented the telescope, you begin to see the other planets in more detail, and the action that was taking place there. So those are some of the real interesting concepts as you look at the age and how they were formed, and like that. And it also, I'm looking really forward to the Webb telescope as you begin to see some of the others, because as we've looked with the Hubble telescope, we've identified planets in other solar systems rotating around suns. But the Webb telescope is primarily an infrared telescope. And that's going to give us a much more detailed reading about the composition of those planets that we're discovering, and give us a more detailed view of it. But the fact that within our solar system, we have found elements on other planets and moons that are suggestive of life, the fact that we found water, the fact that we found gases in atmosphere that are byproduct gases and not native gases, really helps me understand the difference. And I'd like to touch one thing that Hugh said that is, I think, a little bit more controversial. And Sharif, I know you don't mind a little bit of controversy in these, is that when we begin to look at the concept of an alien that was discussed earlier, An alien could come from another body in our solar system. It could come from bodies outside our solar system. Or if I go back to Einstein and look through his extensions to the theory of relativity, and a lot of the work that has been done recently, it could come from other dimensions that are within our sphere too. So I think we need to be mindful that when we talk about things like aliens, we talk about unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, or the old terminology UFOs and other things like that. It might not be from another planet. It could be from another dimension as well. And as we look at that, it is opens up at least my mind to a much broader view of the whole view of the universe and where we are in the universe and how our interactions are in the universe. Also, if you look back at the theories that says the earth has gone through multiple incarnations of people, where civilizations were formed, civilizations were wiped out, and the earth had to reinvent itself again. That is science that is still not proven in one form or a fashion. So if you go back to the time of Aristotle, Galilee, and others like that, that was a time of great awakening. We're also in another time of great awakening right now when it comes to where we are in the solar system, what makes up the elements of life, where are we alone or not alone? And again, it could be extraterrestrial or it could be multidimensional. So to me, there's a lot of possibilities that can be used, Sharif, in this. And there's a lot of people looking at it right now. And, even the fact that NASA brought together philosophers and religious leaders and things in a study last year to say, how do we treat aliens that we do not know? And how do we communicate with them? How do we communicate back to the citizens of the world? It just tells me that there's a lot of thought going on that this is going to be something that we're going to have to face sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor David Spit, for your excellent analysis. We have our friend, Mr. Jason. I think he has some story and views he wants to share with us,
Yeah.
especially about solar and planet.
I can go back to the other question about how it was formed. David's description of Saturn is a pretty good one, since most of us know what that looks like. The difference is before we're talking about before the sun has even become a sun, when it was all just gas and particles, and the planets ended up being like the moons of Saturn, where little clumps would coalesce together. Most of it was all coalescing in the center, but there'd be little clumps that are going around, and it would be a disk. And when the sun reached critical mass, it explodes, and solar wind pushes out all of what would be the rings of Saturn. And then what you have left are the moons, which end up being the planets. And then, but that only happens so far out. If you keep going out, there's going to be a whole Oort cloud of just all kinds of icy bodies out there that the solar wind has not, blown away. As far as the age, Dave's right. We don't know for sure, but what I heard was that it's somewhere around 6 billion, and that the 4.5 billion is when it was able to hold life. And so we know that pretty much as soon as the Earth was able to have life, it had life. So, that's a telling fact all in itself, that, I mean, if it had waited 2 billion years and then life started, then it would be a different story. But pretty much as soon as it had life. They've done experiments where we know that microorganisms can travel through space on bodies such as comets and meteorites. So that tells me that the theory of panspermia is probably correct, meaning that if say there was life on Earth or something, and an asteroid hit it and a chunk flew off and then lands on some other planet, that life would still alive and could start growing. And so that's probably happening all over the place. So my guess is that anywhere life can exist, it probably will. Life finds a way, and so that was what I had to say about that. Oh, let me ask you guys the other thing. I heard that when they landed on the moon and they lifted off from the moon, and then they dropped the moon lander back on there. When it hit the ground, it rang. The whole moon rang like a bell. And I'm wondering what you guys think of that. That's like super interesting observation. You think the moon's hollow? I mean, what's up with the moon ringing like a bell? That's it. Back to you, Sharif.
Thank you. Mr. Tomros, there is one question from audience, Alia. Alia want to know that what do the planets in the solar system orbit on the same plane? Thank you.
No, I think it's again it's just probably a natural process. It's except for Pluto, which is I know not a planet, but it seems like there's just a natural flow that things get into, and when they start turning into planets, and that's what's so interesting about that. All of our planets are on the same line, and I'm looking right where I know they are in the east, south, but it's what's important, I think, in general, is to I was having this conversation. There was a guy, a science skeptic, who was railing against astrology, and but it was kind of a straw man argument, because he thought that astrologers believed that the gravity of planets were affecting physically people, and it's not that. It's about synchronicity. It's about there's just a synchronized thing. And so I kind of going back and forth with him on that. Said, if you want to really destroy astrology with a materialist view, don't use the gravity thing, because the serious astrologers don't think that's what's happening. They think it's just synchronized. The events that happen with these planets in certain houses over thousands of years, they've noticed, have had similar effects on the Earth. At least they match the events. But there was such a rigid refusal to consider even anything. I said, go after true sidereal astrology, because that uses the actual sizes of the constellations rather than splitting them up like the Pope did, in even ways. So if you want to go after it at its purest source. But there was such a rigidity in him that it made me start thinking about how do we bridge that gap with skeptics who won't even think about things like aliens or extraterrestrials. I mean, the scientific method does limit that, but if you see overwhelming evidence of anything, even thousands of years of astrology, if you looked at it really closely, you'll see, well, they've noticed something, so there's something to look at. But there's such a barrier with some scientists and materialists to even consider those things, and I think that's a problem. And there's got to be a way to bridge it, to give just a little bit of a escape hatch in these methods to allow new information, because and it started making me think of, I talked to him about the Hermetic principle of correspondence, and that's what my book US6 is all about. And sure, it's a Hermetic and it's an occult system and it's ancient, so they probably poo-poo it, but they should consider it, because this as above, so below so below, as above. It's a catchy metaphysical phrase, very satisfying to say because it balances everything. But this kind of goes back to what David was saying about the interdimensional possibilities here. As above, so below doesn't mean, and a good handy example of that is how atoms act very similarly to the solar system, right? That's changing a little bit. We understand atoms are fuzzy, more fuzzy than we thought, but also black holes are a lot more fuzzy than we thought. So whatever the correlation is, we need to look at those things. But as above, so below, or this hermetic principle of correspondence isn't just up and down. It's like a Wonkabator. It's sideways and squareways and it's upways, and and it also includes time, which is why we don't see how the same patterns that happened in an archetypal way in mythology are playing out every day and in every way. Like if Amy in the school cafeteria, her brother Aaron lies to her about some jock that she likes because he's jealous, and so she doesn't like him, or says he molested or did something bad to her best friend. That's the story of Apollo and Artemis and Orion, right? So I think all of these patterns are happening simultaneously all the time at every level. And what separates us from understanding that is we place stories onto this. We place the stories onto the whole Artemis Orion thing, and we can't see that is playing out here just with different wardrobe, with different names and different settings. And so I think it's very important to understand that it's not just as above, so below, it's as above, so sideways. And so all of this stuff is happening. And to me, it kind of explains why time is simultaneous. But we have this element of time now that we can actually look deep inside of these patterns. So anyway, the point is, I think we need to materialists or people who reject either the occult or they reject the idea of aliens or interdimensional beings or whatever it is, hollow earth or hollow moons. There needs to be kind of a way to open their minds, because it's being a little bit rigid, because ridicule has been weaponized. The things that I think, if there's power structures that understand how these things are working, they will make it look ridiculous. That's, I think, what's happened to astrology. I'm really into a certain type of specific astrology, and I like that other people aren't into it, because it gives me an advantage. You know, I can see certain things happening. It's kind of a parlor trick too for me, but so I think it's just very important to understand that the things that are being looked at as ridiculous, that's on purpose. That's to keep us from really thinking about them. That's why now that they're acknowledging of off-world or non-human technologies, that we it shows that the campaign to make that such a ridiculous tinfoil hatted concept for decades is folding in on itself. And so that's just one example. We need to look at everything, maybe not everything, but even ghosts or paranormal or all these things that are considered fringe are less and less fringe. And I think that's part of us growing up and not being so rigid like a materialist and saying, no, that can't happen. There's an ego involved. There's a fear involved when you go with that approach, because you want to control your environment. And there's a big problem with that in the scientific community. And I think part of it is justified, because the scientific method does require just, deconstructing everything. And so a good scientist is happy when he's proven wrong, because that means he can push the knowledge forward. So we're seeing this over and over, but there's always this backlash of rigid materialists who just reject anything. But, so I just think it's very important that we all kind of, the idea is like, well, you believe in astrology or aliens? You need to grow up, man. No, I think it's the other way around. If you're not seriously considering things, if you're an anthropocentric, selfish, human first, type, you're being immature. And that's That's kind of where I stand. I'm not anthropocentric. I think our consciousness is the goal, not these meat puppets we're carrying it around in. So that's kind of why I'm a transhuman too. I think we need to foster consciousness regardless of the biological capsule we're carrying it around in. So
yeah, it kind of goes down deep into how we even think. We're really good at guessing and filling in the blanks. You know what I mean? We're matching patterns, and and when we learn something new, we try to match it to what we already know. And when something comes along that's just way out of the box, we're like, and we can't fit it into our understanding. We don't like that.
Yeah.
So there's a whole, like, archaeology. There's like this whole category of taboo archaeology that don't fit into the rest of the timeline. Like the London Hammer is supposedly 180,000 years old or something, and it just is like,
yeah, I think there's elements that keep all this in place. The status quo of universities and all the money spent on textbooks to present this stuff, and you realize it's all needs to be rewritten. There are elements of the economy that want to keep all the status quo, but there's also just this fear of, okay, I've been talking about this all these years, and now I'm wrong. So I think that's one thing I try to do. We're doing with a lot of the things I'm working on is this interloper rule, where I think it's very important that people from different disciplines weigh in on a problem in a different discipline, because they're not coming into this with the parameters of that study or that field of study. And because you kind of lock yourself in, these parameters get embedded early on. But if somebody comes in, say a biologist comes into an astronomy and they're asking a certain question, he doesn't know not to say something that an astronomer might feel silly saying. So it's a very important thing that we develop polymaths, people to don't specialize in certain things. We need to try this interloper rule, let people come in and weigh in on a very important question in a certain field. And I think that'll start breaking up all of this.
That's a really good rule, man, because what that would do is create associations that would never be associated before.
Right.
Exactly. And that's how you learn new things. That's that randomness of life that
Yeah, it's kind of introducing entropy into a closed system, maybe. Exactly.
I like that rule, man.
Excellent.
Yeah, also, I'm the heir to fuzzy logic. Both Tom and Jason are for fuzzy logic.
Yeah.
So fuzzy logic deal with range of tolerance. So you prepare to change. In other words, you do not say something exact, definite, just one thing. Okay, you have a range of things. So in order to go from one idea to another idea, you need to change. Okay, fuzzy logic provides this mechanism for change. So I'm suggesting that the foundation of knowledge should be fuzzy logic, not logic. So basically, both of you are very much for fuzzy logic.
Absolutely. And here's a good example of what I was talking about, the principle of correspondence. Fuzzy logic is a concept that looks a lot like an atom does, or a black hole. Fuzzy balls. Yes. So this is an example of how this correspondence principle crosses disciplines. It crosses subject matter. Just conceptually. Yeah.
Right. Probability cloud.
Mm-hmm. This is really great discussion. I believe that we can arrange this kind of dialogue more, because this is the things actually add some values for our society and for our philosophical aspect. This is also important for us. Some points we need to understand this planet, understand this solar system, which will help us. So this is an excellent discussion, especially the audience. I request all of you, please share our content as much as possible. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. I want to start from Professor David Smith. What is your concluding remarks for today?
Sharif, you always come up with great topics and ones that can go so many different ways at times. And that is true of today's topic. the fact that the human spirit is to look and understand the unknown. The human spirit is to see where we fit in our place with others, uh, and to be able to put it in place. Uh, our understanding of material science is changing as we look outward. Our understanding of where we fit and what is our place changes. Our views of how to even transverse the galaxies with our new understanding of black holes and some of the scientific research that says we have now found superhighways uh, to use quantum physics and transmutation to travel through the galaxy is exciting as well. So we are living in a time where innovation is at an all-time high, and our place in the galaxy, our place in the solar system, really is going to continue to achieve greater and deeper understanding. And I think in the very near future, we're all going to be surprised with some of the announcements that I believe are coming out. So, Sharif, thank you for letting me be part of this.
Thank you, Professor David Speed. Professor Ching, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Okay, well, the first thing is I believe the priority should put on solving the stability problem. Okay, this stability problem is related to a question I think Jason and Tom both raised. Why we have a disk? Okay, the disk is the only problem we can solve. We cannot solve three-dimensional problem. Okay, I would say alien, whoever created the solar system cannot solve three-dimensional. In other words, God cannot solve the three-dimensional problem. So it can only create two-dimensional universe or the two-dimensional solar system. As a nuclear engineer, I think the creation of the solar system is a possibility. See, there are people doing research in creating the moon. The moon is, how the moon forms. Okay, the moon has the same material as the Earth. Okay, they have similar content. So this is, the solving this mathematical problem of stability is of high priority. Secondly, we need to solve the problem of peace. Okay, before we counter any aliens. Okay, because we cannot get along on Earth, and how can we, try to get along with people outside? And also David mentioned something about civilization. Okay, civilization. You see, I say that the mixing of alien with the local animals. The first time probably the mixing is with monkeys. If the human being this time doesn't, is not intelligent enough to protect us, maybe next time the mixing will be with humans. Okay, so this process continue to advance at the higher and higher level. Okay, it's a new concept. So, but but I just mentioned it just for fun. You people can think about this. And also biological material found on meteorite the density is higher on meteorite than on Earth. Okay, scientists refuse to disclose this kind of information to 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 young children. Okay, this is this is very political. That's very bad. Yeah, basically, I would say I'm glad. Also, this thing about phase space. Okay, Jason mentioned the phase space. I left science to start pole science because I solved the problem of plasma physics with generalized fluid description with generalized phase space. Okay, so in plasma physicists that are very experienced with phase space. Okay, the type of phase space people talk about, it's the new dimension. It's not like that. The quantum mechanics, they talk about phase space. They say that when you look at the microscopic level, you can find new dimension. You have new phenomena, new phenomena. So you need to give it a dimension. You see that's all. It's not some scientists try to make it like some mystery. It's not a mystery. It's a very straightforward system. Generalized phase space can contain any amount of variables. It's not just infinite axis. So that's also finally I thank you for supporting fuzzy logic. Okay, Lofty said they suffered for 60 years being criticized by scientists who are for precision. Okay.
Thank you, thank you,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Jason. What's your concluding remarks for today?
I would like to go into when we look around, we see everything is sitting still, but in reality, the universe is motion. Everything in the universe is moving. It doesn't look that way to us, but it is. Our whole solar system isn't just sitting there in space. It's moving. Everything's moving. It's moving around the center of our galaxy. It also moves up and down like a carousel, like a horse on a carousel. About every 30 million years, up and down. Each time it goes through the center of that arm, that gravitational field is going to disturb stuff, and that's why it knocks out comets and stuff from the Oort cloud that end up coming through our solar system. The difference and how we found out that there is a thing called dark energy or dark matter, and how we got started down that track is that there was this lady astronomer, I don't remember her name, but she noticed that the difference between a solar system and a galaxy, in our solar system, we have the sun in the middle, and then like Mercury will go around really fast, but out in the outside it goes around slow. Okay, well, a galaxy ain't like that. A galaxy, the whole thing moves, and so there's a difference, which leads us to believe that it's like the galaxy is floating in something or something that we don't know. That is the essence, and where we can't figure out what dark energy and dark matter is. That's where that comes from. Just saying. So that's it. Everything's in motion, and solar system is different from a galaxy, and that's how we started down the track of dark matter.
Thank you, Mr. Jason. Thank you. Mr. Adam, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Thank you. I just wanted to second some of what Mr. Tom Ross said. I'd like to second his appraisal of not being tethered down to materialism. I agree wholeheartedly. It's very mind-closing, and I'd also like to second his appraisal of having enough wiggle room to not block out completely spiritual matters. I know words like occultism can give people immediately negative feelings, but that's just their bias. And I think, I agree with them wholeheartedly that, spirituality and mysticism and esoterics is a very big part of humanity and human history, like science, like art, like exploration, and it's something that shouldn't be dismissed outright. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you. Good
Thank
discussion.
you. Mr. Tom Rose, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Well, I think the most relevant thing I have to say right now is, I'm open-minded. I'm talking about astrology and aliens and whatever. But the real problem is something I said earlier when I said, I really like true sidereal astrology, and so I like when other people think it's ridiculous because I feel like it gives me an advantage. That's the problem. That and is the problem I'm having, and that humans have is I feel like, oh, I understand this particular type of astrology, and so I want to hoard that for myself as an advantage, and that's what we're dealing with. I think I on the outside, hey, I'm open minded. Let's talk about astrology and aliens, but not too much because I want to hoard that information for myself, and that's the issue. That's my projected problem. That's the I think the problem with humanity. Even if you're somebody who's open minded and good hearted and wants humanity to save itself, there is a part of me that likes the fact that part of this is seen as ridiculous, right? And that's the issue. And I think that's what I'm dealing with. I think that's the kind of thing we need to transmute personally. I want to get out of a place where, and I think if it was more understood and less ridiculed, it would be easier for me to break this down. But that's the problem. Is I see these occult systems or my understanding of certain things, and I'm using them to my advantage because rigid materialists don't even look at them. But so I'm saying, well, we need to break that down. We need to get materialists to be more fuzzy logic, and but at the same time, my ego is wanting to halt that or thwart that in some way, and so that's the work we need to do. Even somebody is open-minded and free-thinking and an alien astrology type is still having this fear-based human instinct to want to keep that information to myself. So that's what I'm working through, and I think we all need to work through on a social level. As above, so below. If I'm working on it, that means it's working on a higher level, hopefully.
Thank you. This is really great
Hopefully,
discussion.
hopefully fuzzy logic doesn't mean magical thinking, because
Yeah.
I'm not for magical thinking. Just saying. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is really great discussion. Hopefully, for our audience, it will be very helpful. I request everyone, please share our content with your government, corporation, and academy. I want to share some good news because long time our World Talent Economy Forum, we have our School of Talent Economy. We are providing training to different developing nations people. Yes, long time we are working with many grassroots level people. They are getting a good result right now. We ensures 705 jobs for developing nations people, especially from Malaysia, from Bangladesh, from India, from Rwanda. We are supporting. Yes, definitely we get a lot of support from developed world. Especially we are getting support from Oxford University Hospital, Cambridge University Hospital. We are getting support from DHLs and many other corporation actually supporting, because in this COVID-19 situation there are two major challenges. Number one, healthcare. We are also supporting for the healthcare issues because from the developing world there are many trained nurses. We also provide free training to these nurses. They joining in the developed world for supporting the doctors and the hospitals. And the second things, we need to work more, especially in healthcare as well as economical recession, because this our organization is fully focused on uh, economy is our major target, economy is our major focus, and definitely talent based economy. We are working, our contributions is very small compared to the present situation. Those who want to support us or organization who want to join with World Talent Economy Forum, if you want to contribute in a real way, definitely you have to create more job. Definitely entrepreneurs are very welcome to the developing world. They can come and they can join in the developing world ecosystem. And beside that, now is a hard time. Many people I know, they lost their job. Many people I know that even they go for suicide. Many people died. Situation is very challenging. So in that situation, we have to work together. Good points. World Talent Economy Forums and our back-end teams regularly, we are working very hard. We are getting very good support from local ecosystem and from international corporations. And I request everyone, if any of the area World Talent Economy Forum can contribute and support, we are open. anybody need any support, we are open for that. This is our objective, that we want to create something which is meaningful. We do not want to go only for commitment. We want to finish the job. So that's why even in our core team, anyone, even from our speakers, anyone want to join, we are very much open. And I am very happy that our students, you can observe our School of Talent Economy, our students, our youth community, our peoples, our developing nations peoples, they are actually improving. That is important. Even though we are open for support to the developed world. So this is the time we need to work together, we need to work hard, and we have to solve problem. So any kind of complex problem you have, directly you can communicate with World Talent Economic Forum. Even many people, they cannot share their opinions. We are open to hear your opinions and everything. uh, Already we have around 1,000 of students, 1,000 more universities and the grassroots level peoples and organization, they start to join World Talent Economy Forum. Everything we are providing 100% free. Our memberships, our training, our World Talent Economy Forums. Uh, as much as possible, we can support you, we will support. And definitely we want to build some uh, real-time projects. uh, Definitely it's climate change related. Tomorrow we have very interesting show on, because World Talent Economy Forum, we are collaborating with GFANS. GFANS actually support the developing worlds. So hopefully all of our session will be very much interesting, and especially Mr. Tom Rose, Mr. Adam, Mr. Ching, Mr. Jason. Thank you for all of your support for World Talent Economic Forum. And I want to invite you all in Malaysia and the developing world. It's a different story. Even from my university, when I was undergraduate students, we invite many Ivy League students, Oxford University student, Cambridge University students, many interns, because we have to exchange our knowledge, we have to exchange our views. If you practically come to the developing worlds, and naturally we also visit the developed world, it can create a new ecosystem, which is very, very, very important. So thank you. Today's session is excellent session. Very, I think it's interesting for our audience. Already many audience actually response, and they can observe our show later. So thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Bye.